Tonight on CTV News, a major fisheries plant closes with a loss of over 200 jobs. Better news for fast food workers, and Restart Mall to stay put for at least another year.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening. One of New Zealand's largest fisheries has closed its Christchurch processing plant today with a loss of 232 jobs. Sanford says it's closing its Riccarton factory due to a drop in mussel breeding stock. It will combine its Christchurch operations with its Marlborough plant. The factory's been operating out of its Riccarton site since 2010. Sanford says it will try to redeploy workers to other plants. Well, there's some good news for fast food workers tonight, with plans to scrap 0 hours contracts. But as Jared McCulloch reports, there's still a long way to go for others working in the industry.
Some good news for many workers in the fast food industry, with one of the country's largest outfits dropping 0 hour contracts. Pressure has been mounting for the last few months, with a number of employees rallying together to get change within the industry. And the Unite union organiser for the South Island says he's happy with the decision, a step forward to guaranteed hours.
It's really good. We've been saying all along that these companies can make these changes, they can give workers security, and with restaurant brands coming back and giving workers that, it shows that that's possible.
Under the 0 hour contracts, staff weren't guaranteed sustained work hours, needing to be available to work at any time, often at short notice. And he says employees are pleased with the result.
People are really stoked. It's been a big thing we've been campaigning on for some time. So we've been talking about 0 hour contracts for over a year. It's been getting a really good response from people. So to have that finally ticked off in one aspect of the fast food industry is really exciting for a lot of people. And for other members in other stores, it makes them excited as well, because they can see that it works, that being in the union and fighting for things achieves results. So it's a really good, people are pretty excited at the moment.
But it will only be a thing of the past for some fast food workers, with restaurant brands who own KFC, Starbucks and Pizza Hut shredding the contracts for good. But it's still not over yet. 2 months ago, these Wendy's restaurant workers had enough, protesting against the contracts and asking for better pay and staff hours.
Not good enough really for the workers on minimum wage. You can come to work week to week and you never know what how many hours.
And Peterson says Wendy's is just one that they're focusing on.
At this point, Burger King, McDonald's and Wendy's are the three companies in the fast food industry that we're in dispute with. KFC or restaurant brands came back and signed that off, so we've done it there. So we're going to keep going for all these fast food companies until we've removed 0 hour contracts from the industry as a whole.
He says it could take time for the burger chain to come up with a result, even though other restaurants have jumped on board.
Well, they'll wait as long as it takes for Wendy's to come back with something that's fair. Wendy's has been saying it's not possible to do it. This deal with KFC and Pizza Hut shows that it is possible for these businesses to operate in that way. So the Unite Union's going to keep fighting for it and keep pushing until we get a deal that respects workers and gives people better security at work.
It's not understood yet what the new contracts will look like, but he says it's likely staff will get a better working roster to make hours more regular for workers. And he says the fight for change at the other stores is far from over, with more protests likely to be on the cards in the next few weeks.
We're going to keep on fighting until all the other companies come into line and give workers a fair deal.
So there's still a way to go yet, but Restaurant Brands says their contracts will disappear by July this year. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
And our business reporter Warren Head will have more on 0 hour contracts later in this bulletin. Well, the search for a missing kayaker on Lake Coleridge has ended its 5th day today to no avail. Dive teams and the Navy have been using sonar equipment to find the missing man, who's a trainee soldier with the New Zealand Army. Police were notified by a member of the public on Saturday afternoon after reporting a man was struggling to stay afloat after falling out of his kayak just 200 metres from the shore. The access road into the lake remains closed until the recovery operation ends. Well, a police chase through North Canterbury has led to the discovery of a missing girl. A number of cars joined the pursuit for the Subaru Legacy when it ran a stop sign on Northbrook Road in Rangiora just after 10 this morning. News Talk TV reports the chase lasted for about 8 minutes. Police say one person was arrested at the scene and the missing teenager has been returned to her family. And still with police operations, police have started a 2-month operation cracking down on drugs, gangs and organised crime. Operation Focus is targeting all aspects of drug and gang offending. And while police are using traditional methods to catch the main players of organised crime, police are also trying new strategies to connect with those at the lower level. Detective Senior Sergeant Greg Cottam says it goes beyond arresting criminals. He says they're trying to engage with offenders to stop them from re-offending in the first place. And we'll bring you more on that story tomorrow. Well, good news for tourists. Restart Mall will remain open for at least another year, but one retailer is claiming the rent's simply too high and is packing her bags. Marcus Gibbs reports.
It's the end of an era for one Restart Mall retailer.
It's quite a different ball game post-earthquake retail-wise.
Plush clothing shop owner Carolyn Barker was one of the first to sign on to the Restart Mall dream back in 2011. After 16 years in Cashel Street, she didn't hesitate to open shop in the central city following the earthquakes. But her high-end clothing store is struggling. She says high rents and a lack of paying customers are forcing her to close up shop. Visitors to her store treat it like a museum, commenting on how nice her clothing is before moving on. She says it's nothing like High Street, where she thrived before the earthquakes.
It was magic down there. It was the fashion precinct and it was a real destination.
Many of the mall's other retailers are happy with the rent. They say it matches foot traffic coming into their stores. One of the more successful, a hair salon catering for locals as well as cruise ship visitors.
The rents are fine, we're doing great. We have cruise ships coming through and we mainly have people that are just starting their journey through Christchurch or just about to leave.
Restart the Heart Trust chairman John Suckling says the demand for a spot in the mall is high. Local sporting goods store champions of the world is already set to replace Plush.
A lot of tenants understand that the rents are quite low, and they're much lower than it'll be in the new buildings.
Restart moved to a new spot last year to allow property owners to rebuild, but the advantage of the previous location was its close proximity to Ballantyne's and its foot traffic. Carolyn Barker says since the move, visitor numbers to her store have dropped off.
It's gone down for me, Gets worse every year.
Tourists quizzed about their spending at Restart don't seem too light in the pocket.
Just browsing, but we might get a few souvenirs on the way. So.
We're going back to the UK, and if I find something that I like, then I'll buy it to take back with me.
While Carolyn's prices start at $100 for a shawl and range to $600 for a jacket, clothing store Hunters and Collectors is priced a lot cheaper, but is still struggling with the amount of local visitors to the store.
Definitely turnover's down and it's just due to foot traffic really.
Andrew Judkins is confident as the new multi-million-dollar retail and office developments open in the central city, more people will flood to Restart.
A lot of these businesses were in an existing building in the city pre-earthquake, and beside them there might have been an office building with 1,000 people working in it. So you've lost all those people, you've lost all the hospitality staff that worked in hotels, bars.
The mall was originally designed to bring people back into the CBD until major developments are built. Several of these will be ready for customers by next year, and the need for Restart could soon disappear. It's likely the mall could dissolve by late 2016 and these container shops could be sold off.
Restart was always a transition where we're moving from the earthquake where it was all red zone through to new buildings going up.
Hunters and Collectors days at the malls are already numbered. The team plans to move back to their High Street store once its earthquake damage is repaired.
We'll move back there within 6 to 12 months of this being filmed.
Meanwhile, Carolyn is preparing to have a short break before moving back into retail, somewhere with cheap rent and high amounts of foot traffic. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
And still to come here on CTV News, the Crusaders return from South Africa. Hi, I'm Chris Lynch. Join me every Monday at 8:30 on CTV as we discuss the issues affecting you, your family and everything to do with Canterbury. That's CTV 8:30 right here.
Computer not working? Replace or repair? DIY or get a technician? Looking for parts? Thinking of upgrading? Need accessories? You've got questions, we've got answers. Global PC.
preparation, the devotion, the fearlessness, the intensity. Runway model management. First impressions are everything.
Made to measure interiors, made with care, made for you.
Join Graham Sinclair and the team at Gone Fishing as they bring you great stories, fishing tips and beautiful scenery. Gone Fishing, Friday night at 8:30, right here on CTV.
Welcome back to CTV News. A man has been charged after a dangerous armed police chase in Ashburton.
An Ashburton man has been remanded in custody on a range of driving, armed robbery and weapons charges over an alleged gang incident in the town yesterday. 23-year-old Rua Rumeni faced 7 charges at the Christchurch District Court today and will appear again by video link next week. Rumeni entered no pleas to charges of unlawfully taking a $2,000 car, driving while suspended, dangerous driving, failing to stop for the police, and unlawfully carrying a shotgun. He's also charged with robbing a woman of $25 cash while armed with 2 knives, and for an incident last month where he allegedly damaged a Housing New Zealand door. Rumeni was arrested yesterday afternoon after the car he was driving was rammed by a black SUV. The other driver fled the scene. Police used dogs and armed offender squads to track Rumeni, who was sighted by residents driving next to the racecourse. The vehicle was abandoned in a residential street and he allegedly fled the scene on foot. Canterbury police arrested a second man at a residential address some hours later without incident. And he'll appear in the Ashburton District Court next week, charged with possession of an offensive weapon.
And still in Ashburton tonight, residents will pay more than 20% higher rates over the next 3 years. The council's adopted its 10-year plan today, and the increases are largely due to new curbside rubbish collection systems, replacing rubbish bins with wheelie bins. The council's main expenditure includes roads, renewing its stock water scheme, new hydroslides and investment in its new sports facility. Well, the man behind a road rage incident last month that killed a family dog lost his bid to keep his name secret today. But while he was granted bail, the North Canterbury businessman remains in custody.
The man at the centre of a road rage incident where another man was repeatedly chased and a dog was killed will remain in psychiatric custody until his next court date in 2 weeks. 51-year-old Andrew McDaniel lost name suppression at his second court appearance today and was returned to Hillmorton Hospital for the completion of a psychiatric report. Police allege McDaniel had reacted after the father waved him to slow down as he went past them in his 4-wheel drive vehicle. McDaniel then allegedly chased the man, doing a series of U-turns and passes, running over the man and causing injuries to his ankle, back and shoulder, which then forced him to jump over a barbed wire fence. The family's puppy was also run over and had to be euthanised because of its injuries. McDaniel will be back in court on the 24th of April.
To sport now, and after 2 weeks in Africa, the Crusaders return home to take on the Highlanders this weekend, and Gordon Finlater went training with them today.
The Crusaders side to take on the Highlanders was named today, with rotation being the name of the game amongst the tight 5. After a busy start to their campaigns, White Crockett and Luke Romano are left out of the 23, with Jimmy Tupou given his first start for the side at lock.
Just got to do this, and I think Luke understands, we've got a massive month of rugby ahead of us, and it's not just about, it is about just this one game, but also in the big picture. We've got 4 New Zealand teams in a row when we count this weekend, so I can assure you that, don't look too much into selections at the moment. Everyone's going to play their part.
It's a different story in the back line, with coach Todd Blackadder sticking with the form combinations that came to fruition last weekend against the Sharks. After returning home early from South Africa for the birth of his son Fox, Dan Carter is back for Saturday's game, but will come off the bench with Colin Slade and Ryan Crotty occupying the 10 and 12 jerseys.
This is a short week. We've got a lot of lack of preparation. We don't have as much time, but the time we have got is quality. And Dan has been away, so he only really returned this week. So we just felt with Slady, who played really well last week, we just want to stick with those combinations, and DC can slide on the bench, and he'll once again, when you got the likes of him and Richie, that experience can really count in the last 25-30 minutes.
It will be McCaw's second week on the bench, with Matt Todd's performance against the Sharks granting him a second straight start at 7. Although he may not be a fan of the bench, McCaw sees the bigger picture.
It's a little bit different, because you've got to be ready from right at the start, but you don't want to use all your energy sitting there ready to go and then, not do the bit when you do get your chance. So I think a little bit more relaxed from what Dave Hewitt said earlier in the year, but look, it is what it is, and I'm just going to make sure, when you get your chance, you do it well, and take it as a positive in terms of, in the big scheme of things, and hopefully the boys do well, and at the end of the day, it's about the team performing, so I'm just going to do a bit for that.
After 4 straight games against gritty African teams, the side will have to adjust to the flair that the Highlanders have become renowned for in recent years.
Yeah, 4 weeks in a row is, it's good to get them out the way. Pretty tough battles against them, so it doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't get any easier. It probably gets a lot tougher now coming against New Zealand sides, and the Highlanders are, probably a lot more disciplined, more attacking threat than what we got probably the last couple of weeks.
Discipline will be one of the side's focuses this week, with last weekend's 3 yellow cards the low light in the otherwise clinical performance.
And the penalties we gave away in the last 2 weeks really hurt us, because what it does, it gives them 50 metres or 40 metres, and then they've got a line out 5 metres or 10 metres from our line, and we're under pressure. And I think the penalty count at half time last week was like 15-2, which is just, that's unacceptable.
Saturday night's match at AMI Stadium is sure to be a cracker, with the two sides currently separated by just 1 competition point. Gordon Findlater, CTV Sport.
And still to come here on CTV News, the week's business roundup and your region's weather.
With all the latest innovations in the world of technology, Shift has everything you need to stay informed and in the know. Shift, 2:15 on Monday, right here on CTV.
Opus is recreating the heart of Canterbury. From large-scale projects to commercial buildings. Your design, your vision. Opus.
In your life. Colour Steel, the roof of New Zealand.
Diversity. No deposit. Instant finance. Convenience. Open 7 days. Austin Motor Company.
Drive It showcases the new arrivals to the motoring world, comparing and testing the latest models to discover which one is the best. Drive It, Sunday afternoons at 2:30, only on CTV.
And welcome back to CTV News. Here's Warren Head now with this week's Business Roundup.
I'm Warren Head from headliner.co.nz. One of the stocks that we cover on Headliner quite a bit is Restaurant Brands. So I took particular interest today to see that the Chief Executive was commenting earlier this morning about the company accepting the Unite Union's request, if you can put it that way, for the company to reconsider 0 hours for their workers across their chain. What has been happening in the fast food industry is that workers would be available for work, but they wouldn't have any guaranteed hours per week. If you extend that argument a little bit further, I think across the whole retail sector, there'll be a lot of retailers who will be thinking pretty hard about what this might mean if this particular project on behalf of the union is taken up in other places and ends up in some form of regulation. But that might be taking things a bit too quickly so far. But already we're told in a union statement that McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's are at this stage not making the same move that Restaurant Brands is making in assuring their workers at least some certainty of how many hours they'll work per week. Now, on the retail sector today, out came Michael Hill's 9 months results. Pretty good for New Zealand, up about almost 5% in New Zealand dollar terms across his store chain here. Not so good in Australia. Things were down about 2% over there, which knocked the revenue back down to 3.5% growth rate overall, but going nicely too in the United States and not too bad in Canada. Michael Hill opened 11 stores in the last quarter and ceased 2, so he's now got 287 stores out there, and that chain is clearly one of the best managed in the business, so if they can't do well, God help the rest, you might say. Well, on to oil, one of our favourite topics on the program. Oil prices took a big dive last night. The UK oil, that's called Brent, the WTI, which is West Texas Intermediate, they both fell about 4.5% and 5.5% respectively. So we'll see that feeding through into world oil prices over the next few days, and if the currency holds up at these current high levels, we should see that translate through to the pump prices. This is a result of the US stockpile of oil reaching a 14-year high. In the context of oil, I was pleased to see that New Zealand Oil and Gas, a homegrown business, is participating in the Patiki 4H well, which was turned on this week. In oil terms, they've done some production and flow testing, and they stabilised the flow rate at 34,000 barrels a day. 34,000. This is a big well as a step-out well in anyone's terms, so good on them for that. In the context of construction, everyone will be wondering tonight whether or not they should take up this free offer of solar panels from an energy company called Solar City, which is offering these panels free as long as you take up the energy that they also produce. So I guess the secret is it's a little bit like copiers. You get a cheap copier, or a cheap price, I should say, for the copier, and then you pay through the nose for the product after that. So I can't tell you too much about what the product will cost, but it's normally about $10,000 to put one of these on the roof. So I think seriously, a lot of people will be taking a look at that. And you do have to ask the question, why all of the rebuild downtown with the government involvement doesn't have some form of solar power on the roof. I'm Warren Head for headliner.co.nz.
Thanks, Warren. While the autumn temperatures start to cool down the region, water levels are still particularly low in parts of South Canterbury, and restrictions are now being reintroduced.
The warmer weather has brought a lot of problems for Canterbury farmers, and an ongoing issue is still with water. Environment Canterbury has issued another water shortage direction under the Resource Management Act for the Ōpāhi River in South Canterbury, restricting the amount of water flow that can be used. It's been one of the driest summers on record for Canterbury, with many farmers taking the impact of the tinder dry conditions, with the government stepping in to declare a drought in the region. The latest direction affects both the river and Lake Opuha as well, restricting irrigation in the area. The lake was only 25% full in January, the most empty it's been in 16 years, and since that time only partial replenishment has occurred. There have been bursts of rainfall over the last few weeks, but not enough to keep the water levels in good order. The restriction will be in place for 2 weeks, but ECAN reserves the right to implement more if conditions don't improve.
And now it's time for the rest of the region's weather.
Good evening, Canterbury. A bit of a cooler day out there today. Let's check out today's temperatures. Timaru, Temuka and Geraldine, you're all on 14 degrees. Ashburn, you're sitting on 14. Methven, slightly warmer, 15 degrees. Rakaia, 14 for you. Taking a look at Darfield, Leeston and Rolleston now, you all shared 15 degrees today. Lincoln and Christchurch, very similar picture, 15 degrees. Over in Akaroa today, it was a mild and cloudy day for you on 14 degrees. Further north, Kaiapoi, Rangiora and Amberley, you are all on 15 degrees. Culverden, Hamner Springs and Cheviot is a day of sharing for you today on 15 degrees. Kaikoura, the warmest place, on 16. We'll get your rain jacket ready tomorrow. Timaru will be cloudy at first, but there'll be some scattered light showers at times and cold southerly winds. Tonight's low is 9, tomorrow's high 15 degrees. To Ashburn now, will be cold and damp at times tomorrow with some southerly winds heading your way. Your overnight low is 9, tomorrow's high 16 degrees. Taking a look at Christchurch's weather tomorrow, a cloudy and cool day for you tomorrow with some scattered light showers at times. Your overnight low is 9, tomorrow's high 16. Up in Kaikoura tomorrow, it'll be dry at first, but then that cloud will increase and showers will develop with some colder southerly winds heading your way. Tonight's low is 9, tomorrow's high 17. Taking a look at the other areas around the region now, Temuka and Geraldine, showers for you on 15. Methven will be similar for you on 16, Rakaia slightly cooler on 15, showers for you. Darfield, Leeston, Rolleston and Lincoln, you will all expect some light showers tomorrow and a high of 16 degrees. Over in Akaroa tomorrow, showers for you, 16 degrees. Further north, Kaiapoi, Rangiora and Amberley, tomorrow expect some light showers throughout the day, sitting on 16. Culverden, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, light showers for you throughout the day and a expected high of 16. Looking ahead for Canterbury now, southwesterly winds will be on the cards at first on Saturday, but they'll die out and northeasterly winds will develop. Skies will remain mostly cloudy and temperatures should be quite cool. As for Sunday, it'll be much warmer with some high cloud here and there and northerly winds. There will be a stage by Sunday afternoon where there'll be some strong northerly winds. Taking a look at next week now, it'll be cloudy on Monday with some showers here and there, quite cooler temperatures and strong southerly winds. As for Tuesday, the showers will clear and that sunny periods will increase throughout the day, but there will be some strong gusty southwesterly winds. And Wednesday, a cloudy day with some showers here and there and some fresh, cold southwesterly winds. But for now, that is your weather for Thursday.
Winter is definitely on the way. And that is CTV News for Thursday. You have a great evening.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.